the Tour of Tafa was canceled this weekend, but UFC Perth still went off over there at the western rim of Australia. And we did get a main event that mattered, and we did get a decisive finish as Carlos Ulberg quickly dispatched a streaking 35-year-old Dominick Reyes, stopping him in the first round with a 2-punch combo and a little GNP to finish the job. There's no question that this sets Black Jag up to face the winner of the UFC 320 Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira fight. Or is there? You could also ask Yuri versus Khalil that same night, that same question. But Luke Thomas, I kind of echo here the idea that he may have passed the line here. So the question is, based on this performance really being the most decisive to date against either elite or sub-elite opponent here, do you like Ulberg's chances, regardless of what happens in that Yuri versus Khalil fight, to get that next shot? Because 9 wins in a row is hard to come by. And when you go out there and decisively finish Dom Reyes the way he did, yeah, you got our attention.
I had someone ask me this last week, BC, which was, oh, don't you think at light heavyweight we have a similar situation to what we at least previously had at middleweight, where Hamzat's the champion, and then on one side of the bracket was Fluffy RDR. We know that Fluffy is out, but for a moment in time, that was one side of the bracket. And the other side of the bracket was Imavov and Bahalio. And the question was, don't we have something similar at 205, namely on one side, Ulberg and Reyes, and then the other side, Yuri and Khalil. And I don't think that analogy works exactly the same. I mean, I suppose on some level it is true, right? Where Roundtree, if he goes and beats Yuri Prochazka, this would obviously extend the win streak. It maybe would be the best win of his career. I mean, there's a lot you could do from that. So that's important. For Yuri, he obviously got back against Jamal Hill. If he wins, then, you know, especially if Ankalaev ends up emerging champion, fresh matchup, if he gets a spectacular knockout, you couldn't rule that out. But it just seems to me like Ulberg's the guy. The win streak is I think the third longest among light heavyweight streaks ever. I think 9 wins or something like that. Like
tied for second.
Tied for second. Yeah, tied for second. Excuse me. So I mean, it's not the same as John Jones's win streak, but it's any win. What Fight Metric one time told me, like, it's very rare actually for, and this was a few years ago, so it might have changed now, but like a lot of fighters never in the UFC never ever develop even 3-fight win streaks. It's actually, like, you know, not unheard of course, but, you know, statistically anyway, not the most common thing. We're on a guy here with the second longest win in this division ever. That has to be respected. More to the point, BC, you know, listen, I wanted to take a flyer on the Dominick Reyes story. I really did. I wanted to see him turn that corner and become, you know, to prove why skepticism can be real, but not to always be obeyed. But of course, dude, we don't get endings like that in MMA. It's fucking brutal. And the reality is Ulberg's speed, the game plan by Reyes, which I do want to dig into when we have time here in a minute. Dude, Ulberg dispatched him. Ulberg did exactly what he was supposed to do. I don't really like the idea of him flying overseas and becoming the backup for this coming Saturday's main event, although, you know, not the worst thing in the world. But you get my point. Like, I thought that the scales were tilted in his favor anyway, and then he delivered exactly what he needed to do. BC, do I think he can beat either of those guys? I wouldn't favor him to do it, but you gotta respect what he's put together. It's very impressive. His time is due.
Yeah, I mean, he may be 34 years old, and the whole thing about him only being 11 months younger than Reyes surprised a lot of people, although the experience gap obviously was wider, but it didn't matter. He looks like he's in his 27-year-old prime there. The elusiveness, the power, the speed, the accuracy on his punches. It was extremely impressive, the manner in which he went in there, how he carried himself, the poise, and then the way he delivered the finish right there. I've doubted people's credentials or ability in the past, but then you get sometimes the performance. I thought Lerone Murphy did the same thing. I didn't take him so seriously as a contender. Then he did what he did to Aaron Pico there, and it really opens your eyes. I don't know, by the way, if he's going to get the Volk shot next or if he's going to get passed over by Movsar, but I really feel like when you add in the fact that there's been a lot of parity in this division, that both Yuri and Khalil, who will be facing off, have tried and failed for the title in recent years. Yuri twice, of course, after having been champion. This is the fresh matchup we need. This is a, you know, fresh-faced guy. I mean, you know, Luke, I don't need to tell you how handsome he is either, but when you have the performances he had in recent fights against big names where he didn't steal your heart, where he didn't show you that he's got something for whoever will be champion by the time he gets there. I think this performance changed that. I agree with you that would be too premature to favor him against either guy due to their skill set, due to the devastating power that Pereira brings, etc. But talk about putting yourself in position. That's exactly what this gentleman did. And by this gentleman, I don't necessarily mean Mr. October, but his month is starting very soon. Let's hear from one Carlos Ulberg about where he believes he stands after such a dominant performance.
Speaking to Hunter earlier in the cage, or just after the fight, I told him that, I asked him to fly me to Vegas. He said, sweet, all good. So we're good now. We're going to fly to Vegas. And then I also said, then and there, but I didn't confirm. And I said, I will be the backup for that fight. I'm here to break records, man, and this is what I want to do. I don't think anyone has. I don't think from the top of my head is. I don't think anyone has fought a fight and then also the very next weekend fight for the title. That's what I envision. That's what I feel like can happen. So I put it in the air. I said but I just want to be there. I want to be there anyway at first, but then if they can make me the backup, that'd be awesome. If anyone falls out, then I'm there. I'll get the job done. Both guys would be massive for sure. Fighting Pereira will be historical, massive. He's got a big following. Everyone loves the guy. And finishing someone like him would be awesome or fighting someone like him would be great on its own. But then when you look at Ankalaev, who's been dominant and he's also beaten Pereira. You beat someone like him, it just means you're at the top. It means no one can touch you. And that's what I want. I want to make sure I beat the best. So if you want to be the best, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now, I'm the man.
Last one from me.
I don't even have a title. I'm the man.
So, Luke, I fully agree that he's the man, and I certainly don't want to turn this into negative after his performance. But I agree with the sentiments you sort of teased toward earlier. The only thing I don't like is being that willing to throw yourself into a backup opportunity so soon. It's not like this is an overly congested title picture. Nobody seems to ever get 9-fight win streaks before getting a title shot, although Fluffy's getting close himself at middleweight. It feels like, yeah, be there, show up, be prepared to get into the cage if the promotion lets you afterwards to do a face-off. But don't be that desperate where you're cutting weight and you're, kind of hoping on an injury. Why would you want to fight the biggest fight of your life on a short turnaround with no preparation like that?
Yeah, I mean, I get what here's what he might be thinking. He might be thinking, strike while the iron is hot. These guys, they believe in having their own visions, quite literally, like seeing their future play out, acting upon it, believing that like now is your time, keep the momentum rolling. And you can imagine why he would feel that way. He had a spectacular win, main event. We thought he might get the title shot after the Blachowicz fight, but it certainly was not a very convincing win. Dude, this was, yes, you can say in the end, and we need to talk about it here in a minute, that Reyes has, the chin is, it's just always going to be a liability at this point, right? I mean, there's just no way around that. But again, Ulberg did exactly what you would have expected from him, and then some. And so you can understand why he would feel that way. But to your point, BC, it almost feels a little bit desperate, where if he doesn't hold on to it, it's going to slip like sand between his fingers, Like does he really believe that he's got it locked up? And it seems like he doesn't even believe that, not fully. And so he wants to just race across the ocean to, kind of plant a flag. And I think that nervousness would not serve him well long term. Again, I think it's likely he gets the title shot, not ironclad, but likely. And whatever you think of his chances, it's certainly meritorious. And give yourself, especially against guys who I think are better than him, especially in Ankalaev's case, give yourself a chance to win this fight. And doing that by racing across the Pacific Ocean is probably not the best idea.
Yeah, I think a flight from Perth to anywhere will take off at least, 2 weeks at the end of your life. I mean, probably worse than a Cumberland Farms diet of hot dogs, although I've been there. Luke, when we spin it back to Reyes here, look, I wasn't disappointed. I ultimately felt Ulberg was going to get the job done, and we told you about the odds being plus 550 coming in on DraftKings that Ulberg would finish him. But I guess it was a little disappointing from the standpoint of expecting or hoping for a, extended competitive main event to see how quickly Reyes ultimately succumbed and to see how clean those punches landed. Taking nothing away from Reyes, was this more about what Reyes, I'm sorry, take nothing away from Ulberg. Is there an argument to be made that this was a little bit more about Reyes not moving his head in that key moment? Or do you think the setup on those shots were just perfect timing, perfect moment there for Ulberg?
My hope in this fight, and you'll recall that I said it on Friday, which was I wanted Reyes to be mixing it up and that to have some kind of solution. You saw that long guard. We talked about it, right? That long guard that he uses. And I thought he would be better about implementing at least some kind of challenge to that, but there just wasn't one. I mean, here's my response to what the fight was, BC. Like, it was exactly what the odds makers thought it was going to be. You know what I mean? It fulfilled it from either end. On the one end, like that particular style matchup with the durability issues that Reyes has, and then to your point, just the defensive issues. Like, even if you had a good chin, you're still going to get plastered by some of those punches that that Ulberg was throwing. Like, it was just a bad style matchup, and again, wish casting for Reyes because you thought he had a sympathetic story, which is what I tried. Just not realistic. And the fight game, dude, this is why GSP and Khabib had very carefully planned exits, because the fight game will begin to chew you to pieces if you let it. So
yeah. Reyes would put a statement out on Instagram after the fight saying, "Congratulations to Carlos. Just wasn't my night. God is good always." Do you think Ulberg? Look, this division is known for sluggers, for finishers at the elite level. Yuri, Jamal, Khalil. I mean, these guys all can deliver and get you out of there, and that's just a small handful of them. When you go up and down the rankings, you're going to add in Ozdemir, you're going to add in a lot more. Rakic. Do you think Ulberg is at the very least showing that combination of speed, power, and the setup, the elusiveness? He's becoming one of the more dangerous offensive fighters in this game, if not this division, other way around, this division, if not this game at the moment. Are you going to buy into that?
I think he's got a pretty fun counter-striking game. He can also go forward too, and which he did in this one. But the way in which he is able to elicit, in this particular case, Reyes, the pressure. So he was the one pressuring Reyes, but then Reyes was a little bit far away and then wanted to close the final distance, and that's where he pieced him up. And he did it a couple times before the final sequence too. Like, he had his number. You know what I mean? In the end, Carlos Ulberg had his number. I don't know what else there is to say about it. But it's like, how does that match up with Ankalaev or Poatan? Could I imagine him catching Poatan? I could, but I think Ulberg, what you saw in that Blachowicz fight, can be naturally very defensive, and he wasn't in this one. But Poatan's a different challenge, and in Ankalaev's case, Ankalaev is just gonna be able to mix it up on him in ways that I think that's going to be. There are good reasons to believe that Ulberg might fall short against either, and in particular against Ankalaev, who is not as strong striker as Poatan in pure terms, obviously, but that ability to mix that up-down is going to be real difficult, I think, for him. He can be pressured back. BC, it's not like Ulberg's got terrible takedown defense and, he's getting rocked in every fight. He did get laid out, obviously, previously in the UFC, but in general, that's not necessarily what the tape shows. And again, under the right circumstances, a real fun long guard counter-striking game. That's a real fun thing. And as you can see, he'll beat some pretty decent guys with it. Is it good enough to beat Ankalaev and Poatan? I wouldn't bet that way.